Everyone, we are looking at one of my favorite engines on my layout. This is a third rail Penzi M1A. These were made around 2004. All brass construction, full O scale. This is obviously the three rail version. At the time when they were making these, they had factory Lionel Rail Sounds TMCC and Train America's EOB Engineer on Board Cruise Control System. So they made this M1A version in two cab numbers, and they also made an M1B version, which is right here. I just got it. It's just shown up. It's in good working order. It is basically untouched at this point. I've just been cruising it around the layout a little bit, checking it out. And major spotting features from the profile here. If you notice the pilot, we've got a cast pilot. We've got what they refer to as the post-war beauty treatment, where they move the generator for easier access, and they move the headlight up high. They put a platform above the air reservoir up front. And also, one thing Third Rail did real nice on this was they put the firebox circulator washout plugs, which for a screaming Penzi fan or an SPF is an often neglected spotting feature on some of these M1B models. And that's this line of washout plugs right up here. So hopefully in the next few videos I'm going to go over some of the things I really like about third rail engines, why I seek them out, and what makes them different from your Lionel and MTH die-cast scale steam for three rail. Also go over some of the challenges with working on these models, and some of the modifications I'll make. And I hope you'll enjoy it and find it informative. So anyway, this next segment I'll go over some of the details. So in this view here, we can see the major spotting differences between an M1A and an M1B. Alvin Stouffer had referred to this M1B front-end treatment as a beauty treatment, but it was also very functional. The cast pilot provided more dead weight over the pilot truck. The platform was raised up, and the dynamo was brought down to a lower position for ease of servicing. What I like about third rail is they actually went through the trouble of creating, a different headlight casting for the two different style headlights. Also with the class lights, we have these real fine conduits going up to it. In this view too, we can see the nice fine lubricator linkage. If Lionel or MTH models this, it usually comes out pretty clumsy if it's even present on the model. But you can see all the fine detail here, properly rendered. I never really used to like the post-war pilot look, but it kind of grew on me over the years. So, like I said, I've been seeking this engine out for a while. And I don't know if I'm going to delve too much into the prototype info on this engine. There's quite a bit of good info out there. Obviously, the Alvin Stouffer books are a good source of info. There's the NJ International Penzi Classic Power series of books. I've got one on order. That's the number 8, covers the M1 class, and I'm looking forward to getting that. The Wikipedia entry for this engine isn't too bad either. It gives you a good general overview. So anyway, I guess next we'll take a look at the tender on this engine and go from there. Before moving on to the tender, I just wanted to talk about third rail running gear real quick. As you may or may not know, third rail engines all feature sprung drivers. To achieve that proper spring travel in each driver vertically, you have to have these segmented drive rods, and third rail does that on all their engines, and that's a really nice feature because Lionel or MTH will have one single stamped rod across there, and as you know, the majority of their steamers aren't sprung anyway, save for like maybe a couple of JLC steamers I know about. And curiously, just the center drivers on those are sprung. I don't know what the reasoning is for that. Maybe it gives the traction tire drivers better bite. I don't know. But anyway, third rail has fully sprung drivers. They even spring the trailing truck sometimes. And then on some of their models, later models after this, they had this movable reverse link, so you could kind of raise and lower this radius rod, and you could like demonstrate or simulate, different valve cutoff, and that's a neat feature. This doesn't have it, but the running gear on this thing is still impeccable. It just looks great. Everything's just scale proportion. Nothing looks clumsy. For a three rail model, it's pretty amazing. Other things I like about, looking at the mid boiler section here, they even have these control lines for the sand valves. They're separate pieces, where on Lionel or MTH diecast, they would be molded in and 3 times the size they should be. So as you can see, a real nice engine. Even things like the turret access doors, are movable. So when we get this on the bench, I'll show you some of the running gear up close. Of course, one of the greatest things about third rail is they usually choose really good gear ratios, pretty much 20 to 24 to 1, or like in their old decapods, those things were like 30 to 1, which made for a real smooth mechanism. So anyway, moving on, we'll go check out the tender. So here you can see the tender for this beast. I believe this is the 210 F75 tender, otherwise known as the coast-to-coast tender, with the elongated water cistern capable of holding about 21,000 gallons of water for extended travel capability between water stops. So this is all brass construction. As you can see, it's got a separate coal pile. It's got really nicely rendered train phone antenna features. So it also houses 2 speakers. Probably one of the first third rails that they put 2 speakers in for the rail sounds system. The whole EOB setup would reside in the tender, and I'll show you that later on the workbench, because one of my tasks is to replace the generic sound chip with something out of my parts collection. Here's the top of the tender deck. So you can see the hatch is open. There's a cruise control switch on here, run program, and a volume pot. And then on the other side is just another water hatch with a screen and stuff in there. Pretty nice. You can see it's got some brightly lit markers. I'm going to pull the cables on those, the leads for that. I'll probably darken the doghouse and remove the figure from there too. I'm just not that keen on that look. It's just so overly bright, but pretty nice. Here's kind of a cab view on the engineer side. You can see there's a movable vent, and here's the nice turret access door. Pretty neat feature. Also, one of my favorite features, here's a smoke off switch. I am not smoking this engine. I don't care. It's got probably what I believe to be a Train America puff and chuff style smoke unit, but man, I am not trashing this thing out with oil. I mean, you guys that like to run smoke, more power to you, but this engine has not been smoked. I love getting engines that have never been smoked, because man, it's the first thing I do is turn off that smoke switch. I am not trashing out the insides, trashing all the weathering I'm gonna do to this. Yeah, that's just not worth it. It's a neato effect, and I know people really like it, and hey, I like it too, but man, it's just not worth the hassle. You can never get an engine kind of back to mint or virgin condition once you run a smoke unit. It's like completely trash. That smoke just creeps forever. Comes out of every little nook and cranny. Drives me nuts. So I don't know what that blue sticker is. I don't know. Maybe that was from third rail production. I don't know. Anyway, here's one of my designated smokers. This is my Lionel EM1, and as you can see, this kind of oily looking effect is from the smoke fluid just creeping everywhere. I don't care how careful you are, you'll always drip a little smoke fluid, raw smoke fluid onto the finish. Once you get on a flat finish, it just creeps around. It's hard to get rid of. You could try to clean it. A lot of times you'll end up taking up some of the weathering. You'll have to re-weather it. It's just not worth it. So I got a few engines I like to smoke once in a while, but this is what happens. You could try to clear coat it too, but I mean, a clear coat finish is kind of flat too, so you just end up with the same problem. And again, man, nothing taken away from smoke. If you like it, by all means, go ahead and smoke your engines. But man, this is what happens. So I had mentioned that this engine was equipped with Train America Studios EOB Engineer on Board system. It was a product offered during this era to give you Lionel Trainmaster commands, which was licensed from Lionel, Lionel rail sounds, and cruise control all in one board package. And it was offered as an aftermarket package for hobbyists to do their own upgrades or professional repairmen or whatever. But it was also offered as OEM, as an OEM solution for companies like Atlas, Weaver, and Third Rail to put the capability on their products. And it's a really neat system. There's some customers didn't like it, I guess. They objected to some of the motor whine in the cruise modes. Depending on how the feedback encoder was set up, it could be kind of fragile. Like you literally put striped tape on your flywheel. If you didn't do a good job, it would come flying off. But the operation of it was kind of interesting. If you had it set up right and tuned right, which wasn't terribly difficult to do, you had an engine that ran pretty nice, and it could do things at the time others really couldn't. You had two modes of cruise control. You had a 32-step mode that could give you the braking sounds. You had the 120-step mode that was more linear, and it just kind of doled out the speed spectrum in a more linear fashion. And it had a cruise off mode, so you could run the engine in kind of like an open loop manner, like you would just any old engine. So the other neat feature it had was that you could have a programmable chuff rate if you chose to use the feedback encoder as the chuff input. So that was kind of neat. Right now I have this engine set up in 120 step mode, and if you hit the boost button in this mode, it starts right off at the first speed step. And my only objection to the system was that it didn't have any ramping speed steps from start, so the first step was very almost kind of robotic. It starts up stiffly, there's no ramp up to the first speed. It just starts right out. So we'll just hit the boost here, and not objectionable, but terribly, but I don't know. You can see I'm having trouble with power pickup on this engine. This is one of the challenges I was talking about with some third rail engines. This engine happens to have 3 pickup rollers, which you can see as the tender's passing by right now. You can see there's a third roller just behind the first truck there. But I'm having some issues with power pickup. I also have them on the M1A, and it's something I hope to resolve during this project. So you'll see what I'll do to troubleshoot that. I think I should have a solution in hand pretty soon. I think I know what's going on. But anyway, that's it for now.